What's up, you guys? Welcome back and welcome if you're new. In today's video, we're going to be installing some Eibach springs onto the RAV4. So we have Steve right here. He's going to be actually showing us in step-by-step on how to install it. So if you guys do have a RAV4, this video is of course going to be for you guys. Go ahead and now get into it. Are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
This right here. Oh, that's a piece of rock right there.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Here what I'm doing is I'm just marking the strut because I really don't feel like aligning my car, at least not today. And this will give me a general idea of where it's at once I do put it back together. And obviously whatever we do on this side, we're gonna do on that side. We just want to show you guys a detailed look on one side, front and rear. And then this next side, we're just gonna time lapse it most likely, just so we can get it knocked out and get out of here, go off-roading.
First thing we're gonna be doing right here up front, we're gonna be removing this speed sensor. So you're gonna notice there's a bolt there. That's gonna be a size 14mm socket. So it's super easy. The reason we're doing this is just so that way we have a little bit more clearance, so when we bring down the shock, we won't damage anything. So that's put to the side.
One thing I will say too, just unclip it from the shock. There is a clip here where it hangs on to. This thing's like being a little stubborn. There it is. Then that just gives us more room.
Hell yeah. And another thing I wanted to note, if you guys do remove any bolts just like we did with the speed sensor, I would suggest putting it back right there just so you guys don't lose it. So I'm just gonna somewhat tighten it just like that, and that's it.
All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off the two main bolts on the strut. It's gonna be size 22, so you can see here. Now you guys can do all this without power tools. I'm just lazy and I have power tools.
Hell yeah. That's the nut we took off, and this nut down here. Something you are going to notice, by hand is probably not going to remove, as you can tell. So that's where you get your little hammer, just hammer it out. Just like that. As you guys saw, even with the hammer, it wasn't pulling all the way out. So what we did is just got the hand tool and just kind of drilled it out by hand, and with the tool, of course. That just helps us out to pull it out even more, and now we have full access. So as you can tell, the steering knuckle is somewhat off of the shock now, so we'll go ahead and keep going.
Same thing too with these bolts, just keep the bolts and nuts together, keep them somewhere safe.
So noticing this right here, this is the sway bar end link. We're going to be removing that. So noticing right here that nut that's there, it's going to be a size 17. Yay.
Just like that, out. Like I said, guys, power tools make things way easier.
Hell yeah.
Especially with things like this that like to spin when you're taking them off. This being a new car, I don't expect it to spin, but it can. So now that we have all that disconnected, go to the top of the car and take off the upper bolts on the strut.
With that, we do need to lower the car because to access those top bolts, they're inside the engine bay. So of course, as far as with us having a lift, this makes this job so much easier and so much faster. Let's go ahead and keep going. Right here in the engine base, there is 3 nuts. One there, and one back there. That's what we're going to be removing. What size is it?
These are also 14. I would recommend you taking the back ones out first and leaving the easiest to access one for last, because you will be needing to support the strut while you take that out, or else it will just fall down to the floor. So I'll take that one out. My electric ratchet doesn't quite fit, so I'm gonna get a regular box and wrench.
So noticing back there, we just have a regular box wrench. A reason why you can't really fit anything else back there. So you can start it by hand, or with the wrench, and then you can do it by hand after. How you feeling right about now?
Feeling all right.
It's good.
Next 10 minutes, we're gonna have this thing done. So here's number 2 out. Now, like I said, the last one, crack that loose.
And noticing right now, while he's taking that off, he's actually holding the shock right here underneath. Once he takes that bolt off, the shock is literally gonna fall. So if you do have someone else, it'll help to hold it. Of course, I'm holding the camera, so Can't help him. Sorry.
One thing I'm gonna do too before I take this off, if Jesse can actually help me with the paint pen.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna mark the positioning of that. So that way it goes back on exactly the same.
So just like we did on the bottom of the shock, we're doing the same thing up there. Shock should just release that easily. So this is seriously a super simple install, you guys. I do gotta give a big shout out to Eibach. They're the same ones I got on my truck as well. Can't wait to see how these bad boys look.
The fatter ones are gonna be for the front. The skinnier ones are gonna be for the rear. So for this top nut, it is going to be a size 19. I don't have a thin walled 19, so I'm gonna have to use my chromie. Some of you might be yelling at me for that, but oh well. So now I have it in our little fancy spring compressor tool that we have here at work. If you have no experience with spring compressor tools, I would suggest you just take your strut out and take it to your local shop to switch out the springs, because at this point this can get dangerous if the spring were to, it has a lot of tension on it right now, so if it were to fly out or something, you can potentially get real hurt.
Or die. Once we've compressed it, now we just remove that top bolt, that's 19, and then it'll release like that.
And take this out.
And while doing this, make sure you guys do this slowly. You don't want to do it quick, and then the spring will freaking just release and probably hit you.
No comparison between the two, we have about a link extra, which is about what they advertise on their site. You get about an inch, 1.1 inch, I believe, lift on the front and 1.2 on the rear. So this is pretty much exactly what they advertise. Let's get it on.
One thing to note, you guys, noticing all the rubbers and everything, we did not remove it because you are going to be reusing it. All right, you guys, so now we're going to get ready, of course, to put the shock into the spring. Noticing the rubber, like I said, you do not want to get rid of these. The bottom end right here has to line up with the top of this spring, just like this. So he's going to pull it in right now. So noticing that. So it lines up perfectly, and it just sits on top of that. So that is how you know it's lined up correctly. Putting on the top hat, it's going to be the same thing. You just want to make sure it's lined up correctly.
Put another tighten while I have it down here.
And then of course you want to just go ahead and tighten that down to spec, and you're good to go. Look at Steve, happy. Guys, of course, now that we have this done, make sure you have that, of course, torqued down. Now we can go ahead and put it back inside exactly the way we took it off. We're gonna go ahead and feed it through, of course, from underneath. And we're just gonna go ahead and line it up.
So one thing I will say too, guys, when you're doing this, try only doing things hand tight at first, just in case you do have to like move things slightly into place, or just allow for a little bit of movement, you know.
One thing I did want to touch on, you're gonna notice right here, that's the paint that we did put, so you can tell we put it in correctly. Let's go to the bottom.
I'm sweaty, it's hot. I did that. So now we're on the bottom, and pretty much just do a reverse of whatever you just did. I always like putting on these big bolts first, just because then they'll support the knuckle on the strut. Now usually if I was at home and I was doing this on the floor, this is where a jack would come in handy. But what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna raise this up higher, and I'm gonna use my pole jack.
And check this out, you guys. Of course, he just got this RAV4. We are gonna be testing it out, but god damn, he's already tested it. Check this out, you guys. Super bashed in. Of course, this is the stock TRD skid plate, but it's still like steel. It's super hard, and we freaking bent it.
There's one. And like I said, if you guys are doing this at home with the jack, I feel like it's a hair easier because you can control the jack a little bit more. With this, I kind of have to bring the car up a lot to get the pole jack under it. I just popped it back in.
Why? Because you're so strong. Of course, same steps. Go ahead and put everything back together.
Like I said, guys, this does move in and out a little bit, so I will be adjusting that once I get an alignment. Whenever you do suspension stuff, I always recommend just doing alignment, because if not, it's gonna kill your tires, and you're just better off having a car that drives straight than not.
And noticing right now, we did impact it back together, but this side was spinning, so you want to go ahead and get a handy wrench like that for one side, and then go ahead and impact it one more time, and we should be good to go.
Now with all the bottom stuff done, remember we still haven't torqued down our top bolts, so let's get to that right now. So like I said before, everything on the bottom is nice and tight. Let's tighten up these top bolts. Me, since like I said, I do this for a living, I kind of have an idea of when a bolt is torqued. Feel free to look up a torque spec online. I'm sure you can find it if you just look up top hat, a RAV4 torque spec. So just like the front, this is our first time doing it, so I'm not exactly sure on like what kind of tools we are gonna need, but the rear is actually easier to do than the front. First thing that we're gonna start off with is take off this cover, undo the sway bar end link that's right here to end this lower knuckle bolt also. And with those disconnected, this entire lower control arm is just gonna swing down. We'll just pull this spring out and pull the new one in.
Super simple.
Yeah, let's get to it. Like I said, first thing we're gonna do is take this cover off. It's just a clip here. Pull this out. And then, looks like there's a 10 up here. Let me get a tool for that and we'll take that off.
The clip he just removed, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was basically in here and it was held up over here. It's literally just a clip. You could get a flathead or a panel removal tool to get that thing out. Oh yeah.
Just take that off, let it drop.
The bolt is right here in this section. Super easy. So of course the next step right here, we're going to be removing the bolt that's right here.
It's a size 14.
Hell yeah.
And the bolt on the other side seems to be a size 15 or 16. I'm actually going to get a wrench for that so that way I can counter hold it with the gun.
That's going to be the nut that we're removing, and on this side over here, that'll be the bolt.
Now with me counter holding it, take the bolt out from this side. And it's out.
Now that we have this out, now we're going to move on to the back right here to remove the sway bar. So it's going to be the same size.
There it goes.
Oh yeah, just like that. So now it's released. Now we can go ahead and bring this back down a little bit, and then that way we can remove the lower control arm and take the spring out. All he did was just pull down the lower control arm and it came out. So of course taking out the stock spring is going to be a lot easier than when we go ahead and put the brand new one, because the brand new one is going to be a bit taller. We'll show you guys side by side. And also you do want to keep that top hat, so make sure you guys save this thing from there because we're going to be reusing it. So I just want to go ahead and show you guys the side-by-side comparison. This is the stock TRD springs. This is the brand new ones from Eibach, as you can tell. Yeah.
Remember, get your rubber, put it back up top, and like I said, you can tell where the spring was sitting because it's gonna have that little indentation there. Put that back on. On this part, I suggest you get a very long extension, or like a long pry bar, because as Jesse said, this is longer, so it is going to be harder to put in. What I usually do is I just kind of put it in between the lower control arm, and as you can see, I got way more leverage on this to put it right in. If you guys want to check on the inside, there is also another rubber there also that you're going to want to line up.
So it's right there at the bottom. On the camera you probably won't be able to see it, but there's the rubber in there, and same thing, just kind of line it up how we told you guys for the top. As you can tell, we do have the spring in already. We have it lined up. All we're doing now is we're going to go ahead and basically start raising this lower control arm. So if you guys do have a tool like this, go ahead and use it, or if you guys are doing it at home with the jack, you guys can use the jack and just kind of jack it up. So that'll help you guys kind of just bring that up. So another thing, since we are doing it here on the lift, as you can tell, we are lifting the car slightly, so you do want to be watching that if you're doing it on a lift. Up next, right now, I'm going to go ahead and help him. He's going to continue to kind of slightly raise this while holding the car down, and I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt right through, just so that way it's compressed and in place. Now that we're in, the bolt is through. Now all we have to do is put the nut on the other side, but we want to go ahead and show you guys. And of course, we still need to put this sway bar end link bolt back through, and then basically we'll do the same steps to the other side. Let's keep going on this side though, so we can finish up. Okay guys, so now that we have this bolt in, we've hand tightened the nut on this side. Up next, we're going to be doing the inner ones for the sway bar end links on the sway bar. So those ones are going to be, of course, right here. So this one should be slightly easier, but I don't want to say that because every time I say it's easy, things go wrong. Got the hole lined up. Bolt should go right through just like that. Super easy. Hammer it in if you're having trouble. Just like that. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then same thing, just put the nut hand tight, and then we'll go ahead and torque everything down right after. Put your cover back on. Also same thing, exactly the way you took off your plastic cover. Go ahead and line it up, put that little 10mm bolt back in, put the little clip that goes here, which we've done, and it's basically done. So exactly the same steps we did on this side for, of course, the rear and the front. We're gonna go ahead and now do it to the opposite side. We'll go ahead and do a time lapse on that, and then we'll go ahead and lower the vehicle. We'll drive it around, see how it is, and then we need to go get an alignment.
What's up, you guys? It's been a couple days since we installed the springs on the RAV4. If you guys have been noticing in the stories, we actually had a little bit of a mishap when we put it on. We're not gonna get into too much details about that because it's a little embarrassing. But as you can see, it is a little bit higher now. If we just measure this right here. In the rear, we are at about 6 1/4, and in the front, we're right around 6 1/2. And the reason we wanted to wait a couple days until we came out with the after part is because we wanted to off-road it, we wanted to test the springs out, and also suspension settles when you guys mess with it. So that's another reason why we wanted to make sure everything's settled and it's going to be exactly where it's at, so that way you guys know exactly what you're buying when if you do go with this kit.
Hell yeah. And as you can tell, it's no joke. It's really dirty because we did test it out. We're not joking about that. Just look how clean this looks, you guys. Like we said, this thing is not going to be a mock crawler. It's going to be tested, abused, and just see what it's made of. All you people that talk bad about these RAV4s, we're going to prove you guys wrong. Dang.
That wraps it up for this video. Again, if you do want to go with this Eibach Pro spring kit, this is what you're getting. You're getting about 1 inch of a lift even after it's settled, and I think it's real great. I've been hitting a bunch of offshoots up in Cleghorn, things that I didn't think I could do before, and these springs do give me a lot more confidence. I actually do feel that I'm hitting a lot less on the ground, so it's a great kit. Alright guys, and like always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the videos if you guys want to tune in for more RAV4 videos, and of course Jesse's Tacoma videos.
Oh yeah.
JesseRizo is here for you. It's here for you, na. Like I said, it's super simple. Please feel free to subscribe.